Just a heads up, this show contains conversations about LGBTQIA+ mental health struggles. If you're affected by what you hear, please see the show notes for links on where you can receive help. Hi, I'm Joe Hart and welcome to Footballers Unfiltered. I know what you're thinking, and no, this is not another football podcast. This is a show brought to you by FIFA, the global union for professional football players, which is bringing real conversations amongst the players on and off the pitch today to you. We often talk about football as a sport that brings people together. At the same time, we also know that the men's football still has a long way to go before everyone truly feels included as well as represented in the sport.
From telling two people, which was the coach and the assistant coach at the time, I felt like 15 kilos of weight has been lifted off my shoulders, and it was such a relief, and I had the best session I ever had, just having a free mind space. And that was only two people that I told.
There are still many stereotypes and barriers that make it difficult for the LGBT+ players to feel seen and included.
I never thought there would be a day where, I would tell the world who I was while I was playing football. I always thought it was something I would associate with after football. I got to a point in my life where I wanted to kind of live authentically and wanted to live myself, and I felt quite stuck, and it did affect my mental health quite a lot.
In this episode, we speak to Josh Cavallo, who through his personal story has contributed to the conversations around the long road to more inclusive football. This is why Josh is our guest on this episode of Footballers Unfiltered. So before we're joined by Josh, I'd like to welcome Erica Pupo, who's the EDI manager at FIFA. Erica, could you please tell us what you do in FIFA?
Sure, it's a pleasure to be here. So as you said, I'm the EDI manager at FIFA. That stands for Equity, Diversity and Inclusion. My work can take many shapes and forms, from working on anti-discrimination policies to a lot of educational resources and toolkits, both for us within FIFA, but also for our member unions. Ultimately, what we do as a union is build more equitable, fair, safe, healthy, positive environments for football players.
So very much a supportive role. Can we get a little bit of background about you, how you got into this role?
I originally joined FIFA in 2020 in the global policy team. So I was working across both women's and men's football at that time on identifying priorities and issues across both industries, and then working on related projects. So I wasn't necessarily focused on diversity and inclusion, but naturally within my work in global policy, I started focusing more and more on human rights and on topics that relate directly to diversity and inclusion. One thing that I always like to highlight is that within diversity and inclusion, education and support is a massive pillar. Because, some of the conversations that we need to have, they're not easy conversations. They relate a lot to mental health. They relate a lot to inclusive environments and the link to performance. So it's good to have someone that everyone can kind of go to for questions. And
I hear you.
There's some great work done by our unions directly with football players around the world. Some of examples that I really like to highlight is there are more and more workshops done directly with football players on topics of mental health, well-being, and the link between mental health and well-being. And those are spaces where players can get educated around topics of diversity and inclusion and the direct link between being able to be who you are and not having to hide part of yourself. Those are spaces for players to get educated on those topics, but also for them to be aware or be reminded of safe and confidential spaces they can reach out to and they can count on in case they have any issue or concern that they may want to speak about or speak out about, and they don't know exactly how to do it, or they're not fully sure who to speak with yet. The union is there to provide that safe and fully confidential space.
Yep.
We also saw PFA Australia doing a player development camp back in 2019. So this is even before Josh came out, on the topic of homophobia, because there is still very much an awareness on the lack of, or the fact that there are not enough of these conversations happening maybe in the locker room. So providing those spaces. And that camp in 2019 had around 200 players. They showed a documentary on the topic of homophobia, and then the players were provided a space to discuss if they wanted to, and if they felt, of course, comfortable in asking questions. I think providing those safe and confidential spaces for players is massive, and it's very important. And again, stories like Josh's help us kind of kickstart conversations, but also bring those conversations a step forward, going more in depth, understanding a little bit more about the personal experience of the player.
Yeah.
Even today in 2025, when FIFA estimates there are around 130,000 professional football players in the men's game, there's still only a handful of openly out players. And this is at the pro level. But even if we look at the semi-pro, there will only be other handful more. So there is a need to work on how inclusive the men's football game is, to allow more and more of these players to speak out if that's something that they want to do and they wish to do. Because clearly the numbers, I think, speak for themselves.
Thanks, Erica. I think that's the perfect time for us to bring Josh in and we can hear his story firsthand. Josh, thank you so much for joining us all the way from the other side of the world. It's great to have you on. And most importantly, first and foremost, left back or midfield, mate?
That's my strength, mate. Versatility. I absolutely love it. No, I'm a pure midfielder in and out, but do love to go up and down the wing as well. So I do love a left back from here time to time.
Yeah, roaming. That new position, it must be suiting you.
Yeah, I'm living for it. I like it. I like a little bit of a cheeky whip in, so I'm not complaining on my end.
How's the season going so far?
Yeah, it's going really well. We've got quite a young team and quite an enthusiastic team, so it's been really good.
So a young team, 25, are you a senior player that people are looking up to, giving plenty of advice?
Yeah, it's quite a different role, hey. Like, I've been in the game for a long time now, since I was 16. So, yeah, I'm quite used to looking up to older players and learning from them. And now it's kind of like the roles have reversed a little bit, but I do enjoy it. And I like to teach the younger boys a thing or two as well. And also for myself, looking at the older boys as well, I always like to learn and get better myself. So it's a unique position, but I'm liking it.
Oh, brilliant. Well, you're doing a fantastic job. Josh, obviously on the field, the players are looking up to you. Off the field, the world's looking up to you. Just tell me a little bit about your journey so far.
Yeah, it's in 2021. I posted a video online and it was a little bit about my personal life, something that I haven't really opened up about. Obviously, I've been quite career focused with football and didn't think that my personal life would correlate or I would be able to be myself. And I posted a coming out video of my sexuality, that I was gay, and that obviously changed perspectives around the world and definitely took the world of football for a shock. Looking back, like, it was the best move and decision I've ever made. And it's obviously moved mountains of people and influenced a lot of people and made so much progression within the game. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. So it's been an absolutely whirlwind of a journey. And look, we're in 2025 now. So it's been around 4 years and I've done so much and so much has happened in the meanwhile. So I'm super proud of myself and the people around me, my support network, and how we've correlated and changed things around football. But also, too, we have to realize there's still a long way to go, and there's still lots and lots and lots to learn from.
I've been in and around football for a long, long time, Josh. Conversations about sexuality, gay players being in the dressing room has always been a hot topic. It's something that the media seem to drive a lot more than players, if I'm being brutally honest, but it felt like it was always there. So look, it was a huge moment for you and it's nothing to do with me, but it felt like a huge relief when you stepped up in 2021 and were just honest about yourself. I watched your coming out video. It was obviously a huge moment for you, for your family, for your friends. But even in the short 2-3 minute video, it's like a weight just jumps off your shoulders as you get towards the end and you get to celebrate the support of your teammates, the support of your friends, the support of the community. How did that feel in that moment and those weeks leading up to doing what you did?
It felt like a dream. Like, I never thought there would be a day where, I would tell the world who I was while I was playing football. I always thought it was something I would associate with after football, or just give up football and just be able to be myself. I got to a point in my life where I wanted to kind of live authentically and wanted to live myself, and I felt quite stuck, and it did affect my mental health quite a lot. There was obviously turning points where I realized, hey, like, you know what, I want to be that person. Why am I letting other people drive how I want to live my life and what I can do? So I took the initiative to come out for myself, for my family, for the community, for every little boy that's playing football or wants to play football that turned away from the game because they feel like they didn't fit in, or, you know, girls that want to be boys or boys that want to be girls. Like, at the end of the day, it wasn't a matter of us fitting in. It was just like to accept everyone. And I think that the biggest thing I go to is that, you know, we see guys down the street holding hands, or we see two girls down the street holding hands. We don't really question anything. We don't really say anything. So like, I wanted to make that in sport. Why do we have to say something? Why is football a place where that is not accepted? It's normal in life. It's a natural process. It's normal. So why are we frowning upon it? Why are we looking at it differently in terms of football? I wanted to be that breaking point and to break boundaries and to show that I'm living proof, I'm walking proof of how people can be authentically gay and play football at a professional level and be happy and on top of their game. So that was a big step that I took forward, and there's zero regret with that, really. I just wish I kind of did it sooner. So, yeah.
I'm thinking at 21 years old, you must have had support of friends and family. Did you feel like the footballing world was ready? Did you feel you had that support network, or was it purely just friends and family believing in you?
Nah, there was no support. There was just the unknown. You know, there was no one that I had when I was younger to look up to do that. And that's the representation I want to be for these younger generation, for the next to come through, to say, hey guys, it's possible. No matter what you do, what you love, it's about your talent, and we can make that work. And I think I'm walking proof of that in football.
Josh, I was wondering, because I assume, as you said, you were not sure about how people would react. And you spoke a little bit about taking a step-by-step approach, coming out first, of course, to your family, to your loved ones, to the ones that maybe you were feeling the safest with and more comfortable with. I heard that you spoke first to your head coach within a club environment, and also they showed full support. So can you maybe tell us a little bit more how that reaction, that positive reaction to you speaking out about who you are and sharing something so personal, so deeply intimate and personal to you, how that helped you make the following step and then making that huge step or going public to the whole world?
Yeah, of course. For such a long time, I was convinced, you know, being Italian, Maltese background, that you have to be traditional, have a wife, have children, have family. It was kind of driven in our family. It's kind of normal. So I did feel like an outlier in my family. But when I did come out, my parents they were fine. It was still the same Josh. I was still the same everything. And they were absolutely magical to me. I think they were just disappointed that I've hid it for such a long time from them. You know, it was 21 years of my life that I was hiding from them. And it was the constant lies, not only lies in football, but lies in my everyday life, you know, where I am or who I'm hanging out with. Or, you know, for example, on the football field, I'll give you a couple of scenarios. You know, could be we're getting a drink break and everyone's talking about, oh, who's the missus that you took out to the movies or something like that. And, you know, you're trying to perform at such a high level in football. And I'm got my mind 24/7 thinking about making a fake scenario in my head so it can cover up. And it was quite a difficult time because that would happen in the change room constantly. That would happen everywhere. And it would actually isolate myself. I wouldn't hang out with the boys afterwards training. I wouldn't go out with the team. I wouldn't do things because I wouldn't want to be caught out in my lies. And it was a 24/7 act on top of trying to be the best athlete you can possibly be every day for football. You had to be this two cards, kind of like living a false life as well. So that was like a difficult scenario. But how I came out to my coach and my teammates was pretty simple. I just walked into my coach's office and I said, hey guys, like, just wanted to let you know that this is a part of me and like I'll be coming out like publicly and I'm gay. And the coach just kind of like laughed in like a really positive way. And they're like, Is that all you need to tell me? And it was like a really heartwarming moment because they were like, at the end of the day, if you're performing for us, we don't care what you do outside the field. Like you can be yourself. Like you didn't need to hide this from us and stuff like that. And they're just like, from telling two people, which was the coach and the assistant coach at the time, I felt like 15 kilos of like weight has been lifted off my shoulders, and it was such a relief. And I had the best session I ever had, just like having a free mind space. And that was only two people that I told. So the coaches ran me through how do I want to do it. And I said I wanted to tell the teammates. So after the session, we told the teammates. And I've never seen such an emotional group of footballers. Every single one of them had tears in their eyes. Every single one of them gave me a hug. Every single one of them showed love. It was actually a magical moment. And from there, I walked out of the change room and I pressed the post button and announced my video to the world. And my life changed ever since pressing that button.
I would say for anyone watching these on video, like your facial expression and your energy really changes. You really like shine when you talk about the moment that you finally spoke out to your family first and to the head coaches. That really clearly has like an impact on how you feel within yourself and how you're able to show up. I think I can still see it. It's been now a few years.
Just opening my mind there about honesty and it took me back to someone that you'll know very well, a conversation I had with Ange Postecoglou. I was 34. I'd had a solid football career, especially through my 20s to 30. And then from kind of 30 onwards, I was a little bit lost. My career changed at Manchester City, and I was going on loan as an older player, had a young family, and I was kind of dotting around the place. And eventually at the age of 34, I was at Tottenham. I got some news that I didn't love. And I thought, you know what, I don't think there's any room for me in football anymore, which I was okay with. I'd had a great run. I'd given everything. I'd continued to give everything, but there was no space for me anymore. It was fine. And I got to speak to Ange, actually, who was the new manager of Celtic. And I thought, you know what, I've got nothing to lose. I'll just be totally honest with the guy. I didn't know Ange. I didn't even know his career. Told him very openly, I love football, first and foremost. I had to get that in because everything else didn't sound like I did. I've got a young family. We're moving around. I don't know where I quite sit in football, and I don't want to keep giving everything I've got to not get much in return. So if I was to come to Celtic, if you were to give me that opportunity, I wouldn't be able to bring my family because I couldn't, schools, young children, I couldn't commit like that. I could commit me, but I couldn't commit my whole family. And I'd need a little bit of leeway. I'd need time to come and see them or them to come up. Anyway, basically, I was selling myself out of the job, but I was just being honest. And he was incredible. He was so understanding. He told me that, look, he gets it. He's got a family too. He appreciated the honesty. He'd had all the conversations he needed to have about me as a person. He wanted to speak to me in person. He backed me as a footballer. And then he said, look, I've got your back. If you're going to come and do that for me, then we're going to have a good time. And it just kind of opened me up to those kind of open conversations, how far they can get you. And as I say, it doesn't guarantee anything, but it certainly gets you moving forward, which is such a great feeling.
Absolutely. Showing your vulnerability is something that both of us as footballers wouldn't think would be looked on as a positive way. It would be looked on quite negative, and it could have an impact on our careers. So we like to keep our cards close to our chest. It's different to go up to a coach and to tell them something personal about yourself. And for you, that's impressive that you did that with Ange. And for me, it was my connection to that was coming out to my coach and telling my coach, my story. And that's something that in a million years, I'd never thought I would ever tell a football coach in this world. There's no way, but to see the reaction and to see these guys, they're human as well, and to see them understand. And at the end of the day, they were footballers back when they were playing as well. So they understand how we think, they understand our mindset. So it's nice to see a reaction of top tier coaches, and especially Ange, he's a fellow Aussie that comes all the way from the grassroots here at Nuttawading in Melbourne, Australia, to see how they are understanding and they get us. And as you said, you were selling yourself out, not in a positive light, but to see the reaction he had, basically taking you under his wing, saying, you're all good, mate. That's incredible. So it's nice to see in the world of your world and the world of my world of how far apart we are, but how similar and close it is. And it's just impressive to see that, showing vulnerability could go a long way, especially in the world of football.
And you know what, Josh? I don't know about you, but I was comfortable with him saying, look, that doesn't work for me. I'm not gonna pursue it anymore. You've told me what you said. I need someone who's fully committed, who needs to be all in. But it was just a conversation, and going into it, I knew full well that I was going to be able to shake hands and move forward, however it came out. And that was what, I think we're both very lucky. You've had your conversation, the team supported you, and you were able to move forward. But because you'd made that decision to have the conversation, I think is 99% of the battle. Whatever the result is and how another human reacts, that's up to them. But as long as me moving forward in life, I always feel if I've done everything I possibly can, I'm cool with it. I'm cool with the outcome, win, lose or draw.
Absolutely. And I can only imagine how much weight that felt off your shoulders, having that conversation. And I bet going forward, how much better you would have performed too, just knowing that a coach got you, understood you, had your back, or you under their wing. It's incredible to see, when a coach takes a player like that. we'll go miles ahead for them. So it's really nice to see, it comparing both our stories and seeing how similar it is in different worlds. It's really touching.
That's the power of having an inclusive environment, right? Feeling fully seen and accepted for whoever you are and whatever decision you want to make for yourself, for your family. I was just wondering, Josh, if you can tell us a bit more about the link between you deciding to speak out first to your family, to that safe network, and then to more and more people, and then within your club context, and then so publicly, the link between that, your decision to make that step, and your overall well-being. Because you spoke about a specific moment also when you made that decision.
In Australia, in the A-League is like our Premier League. I was playing for a team in Melbourne, and things at the time I was playing for the under-20s Australia team, the national team, and my coach there ended up moving to Adelaide United, the club I'm at now, and things weren't going so well in my Melbourne team, and I had the opportunity to come across here on a 3-day trial. So I came across, packed my bag, drove my car, had barely any money, nothing. I only had less than $200 to get to Adelaide and to drive. And it's about an 8-hour drive. But I was just so I have to do this. This is my calling. It's my opportunity. And my parents thought I was nuts. And if I told them how much I had in my bank account, there's no way they would have let me come to Adelaide, especially at that age. I was very young still, about 19 years old. So I came here on a 3-day trial. After the first day, I was successful and did end up doing well and signing with the club. That was in the middle of the season in January. And then I played the rest as a left back. And that was the first time I played consistently as a left back in my career. And I ended up doing really well. And at the end of the season at the awards night, I got the best young player. That was a turning point for me because as Joe can speak for himself, but your teammates, you're with them 24/7. They turn into your family, they turn into your brothers, they become the people that you rely on and you speak to. Yeah. And as I was saying previously, living a double life and having to lie and have that all add up was quite draining and exhausting. So it came to the awards night. When I received that award, it was like a moment for me that switched. It was such a prestigious award that I've come from nothing, and I've absolutely showed the world what I am and who I am as a football player, but they knew nothing about who I was actually as a person. And I was actually really sad inside. This is not Josh, this is not happiness for me. I was tired of being hidden and tired of having to go around and hide from people and not live my authentic self. And then I would be like, why hasn't this happened in football? Why has no one ever came out to be themselves and be successful and play? And I understand that now looking back, all the negativity, all the things that come your way. There's multiple death threats that come my way daily still. And it's quite sad to see. I have a very strong support network. I have my good days, I have my bad days, but I'm free. I go to bed, I put my head on the pillow and I'm happy. I'm Josh Cavallo. I'm the footballer. I'm also the gay footballer. And I'm super proud to say that because I never knew what the capability and the ability and the reach that this had by posting a video like that.
Yes, it's such a powerful message, Josh. And I'm just thinking of it now from a performance, from an athlete point of view. I look in dressing rooms now and towards the end of my career, I was lucky enough to realise that just being yourself and being honest was such an empowering thing. What's your message to players who, it might not be their sexuality they're hiding, but everyone's hiding something to an extent. We all have to put this mask up, especially in professional football. We have to come in, show that we're strong, show that we're brave, be able to put our hands up, move forward. But everyone's always holding something a little bit back. And the longer I got on in my career, the more honest I was, the more relaxed I was. I had a moment when I was about 26, 27 where I had a mental coach come into my armoury. And it's the best thing that ever happened to me because it didn't do anything for me football-wise. It just allowed me to be able to talk to people, to communicate. I had to say that I was struggling with a certain goalkeeping technique with a goalkeeper coach. That was my first thing. He was trying to lead me down one route. I felt the other way. But instead of me just saying, look, I prefer this technique, which I've grown up with, we ended up going further and further apart. I got worse in goal. I got a terrible relationship and I came out of the team. So I'm just saying, being able to communicate, is that one of the great things that's come out of what you've done recently?
Absolutely. Look, we come from two different worlds, and I haven't experienced what you have experienced and you haven't experienced what I've experienced, but it's quite similar. I think we've got a similar mentality when it came to that. We didn't want to show weakness, and I can't really speak for yourself, but for me, it was gays are looked upon differently. They looked upon weaker. They looked upon, not masculine. That means they're not going to be the best. That means they're not going to be the best footballer, and it has such a negative connotation to it. For me, showing weakness or showing something about yourself that you don't think is the strongest point doesn't actually bring you down. It leads you into growing into being a better person, growing into being a better player, doing things that, will improve your game. So for me, I just wish I did that announcement sooner. That's one thing that I do regret in this whole coming out process, but I'm grateful that I did it at age 21. And now I've had 4 years already and hopefully another 10, 15 more years in football where I can keep growing and I can be myself. And I'm so thankful now that, I have this mentality and this mindset. On the field, I like to be the best of my ability, and I'm Josh the footballer. Off the field, I also like to be a role model and be an advocate in a space where I think needs growing still in the world of football and in the world in general. But it's actually really nice to see as well how we can come together and, look at that and talk to someone and open up, even if you think it's like a scary coach or you think it's someone that has tough skin that doesn't have the time of day for you. It's actually, we're all human at the end of the day. They have a family, you have a family, they have weaknesses and strengths, so do you.
And there's really a link there with mental health, right? Because keeping something so important to you hidden and just inside of you requires energy.
A lot of energy.
A lot of energy sometimes.
Whatever it is.
And especially when we're talking about elite sports, you're the best when you can fully focus, right?
Yep.
You're at best at your performance when there's nothing else kind of taking that energy out of you. And I think that's why what you spoke about earlier about being able then with your mental health coach to then show up as the best version of yourself. And it's great to have role models like Josh taking the step publicly, because it does help move the conversation forward and kickstart conversation around this topic.
So Josh, what you know now and how you feel now, do you feel there's enough effort going in to make people more comfortable in coming out and being who they want to be? And as you say, that doesn't necessarily mean being, going on the full level that you did, just being comfortable with themselves.
No, I don't think. In the world of football, being a gay openly player is a very toxic place. It's something that not everyone would be able to handle and go through. I still think we're a very, very long way of being acceptance in this space, unfortunately. I can only speak in my experience. So these are factors that people will consider in their coming out. And, they might not be out now, but coming out brings all this attention, brings all this pressure, brings all this negativity that will affect their game in the long run. It's like when players have a bad game and then they see what the media is saying about them. It's a constant thing. For me, unfortunately, I step onto the field or I get injured or something happens in my football, it's all got to do with my sexuality. Yeah. And that's unfortunately how it has turned out, because being the first footballer that comes out as gay, I wasn't to know what to experience. I wasn't know what to expect. I didn't know what was around the corner for me. So unfortunately, I can only talk about my experiences, and it's been quite toxic, and negativity has been quite high. So it's difficult to say to people, absolutely, come out, be yourself, but it also comes with a mountain of downsides as well that I don't think people realize. But for me, whenever I get down or whenever I get out and I see comments or I see something that I don't like, I've been dealing with that for 4 years now. It did affect me at the start when everything boomed and I didn't know how to deal with it. But having that support network around me now is absolutely like put up a wall for me. And, social media for me can be quite a toxic place.
I mean, Josh is sitting now in Australia, a country that is relatively progressive, I would say, on these topics. But when you look at the global level, other players would have additional challenges that maybe Josh didn't have. But there's like an intersection of different layers of barriers and challenges when you look into nationality, ethnicity, faith, just the cultural and societal context that some of the players are navigating. And again, like as Josh mentioned, each case is different. But yeah, I think it's important to acknowledge that the barriers and the challenges that players face when you look at a global game, they're really different and really depending on the specific context that these players navigate. So again, it's incredible to see stories like Josh's, because we know how difficult it can be, and especially when you step into the unknown, right?
What keeps going through my head, Josh, is I constantly kind of grew up hearing from former pros and pros, current pros, older pros, when you cross over that white line, you don't have to worry about anything. I could have 95 minutes, 100 minutes of just freedom, and then I'll come and deal with it after. And then, life goes on, grow up, different things go on, families come into it, emotions. Like everybody has their own things going on in their lives. And the older I got, I thought, I don't want to just run away to the football pitch and just be a footballer for 100 minutes. I want to be a footballer and me the whole time. And that's what's encouraged me to have conversations, difficult moments in my life, talks about football, talks about family, talks about friends. And I think that's a really, really great message that you're spreading. Mate, you're honestly so powerful to everybody that's feeling anything in the world. And football shouldn't be somewhere where you just run on the white lines and be free.
Absolutely. For me, it was like I thought stepping on the field, that gives me 90 minutes or however long, I can forget about everything and focus on the ball and hitting the back of the net. But I'm glad now I can step on the field and I can be who I am. And, in terms of in the competition of Australia in the A-League, I haven't come across anyone on the field that uses it in a negative way. And it's been really nice to see that. A lot of them have pat me on the back and say, well done, Josh. And that's really nice to see. And as I said before, it's not all amazing. There's times where teammates refuse to wear the Pride jersey and it's against their religious beliefs. And I accept that. I understand that. And I know that it's not for everyone and this, that, but it's not a part of putting an identity on you guys. It's just showing a rainbow is showing people that they're okay and safe to be here. They're okay to work in this space. They're okay to be who they are in this space. It's not saying that we want to put it all on you. We want you to wear it permanently. We want you to be classified as one of us. It's not the messaging behind it. It's just to support us and say, hey, we're a welcoming space here. So I think the messages can get quite confusing at times, but I'm here to be the living proof that it can happen. And you know what? As I said, I'm not perfect. I'll make mistakes and I'll continue to make mistakes, but the little steps that we're taking forward and the little chosen movements that we're doing is definitely worth it. And it's changed millions and millions of lives across the world. So it's crazy. I'm just excited to see what's going to happen in 10 years' time, 15 years' time, and when I move away from the game and stuff like that, because the movement in the space of 5 years has been tremendous.
So at the end of every episode, we like to ask 2 questions to all of our guests. First one being, what message would you give to a younger Josh?
There's mountains and mountains of words of what I would say to a younger Josh, but it's the journey that you're going to go on. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be very difficult. It's going to be heartbreaking. There's going to be so many people loving you. There's going to be so many people praying for your downfall. It's ridiculous to see how the power of social media will work, but just stick to yourself, be authentic and be brave and keep going, pushing forward, and don't give a fuck what people think, okay? Cool. Don't care what people think. It's something that you'll use as your superpower and lots of millions of people will look up to you around the world. But take that step, be brave, and the future Josh will be there waiting for you.
Powerful message. And a final question, Josh, what do you love about being a professional footballer?
What I love about being a professional footballer is that I never knew I could actually be my authentic 100% self and play at the top tier, highest level in the world and still be Joshua Cavallo, the footballer. I think that, football has a space for people like me, and I'm really proud to be wearing the flag. I'm really proud to be the representation of the LGBTQ plus community. And I hope there's many, many, many more in the future. It may not seem like it right now, but in 10, 15, 20 years time, the football is going to keep evolving, keep changing in a positive way. And I feel like I needed to take this step in football to make it happen. So that's what I love about professional football, is that it's slowly getting inclusive and we're slowly growing together.
Well, Josh, that was truly educating for me. I've absolutely loved speaking to you, and I can't thank you enough for your time. Continue to do what you're doing. You're doing a great job on and off the field. And as I say, really appreciate you, and thank you for spending your time with us today.
Awesome. No, thank you so much. It's an honor to be here today. So thank you, guys.
So, Erica, I really enjoyed that chat with Josh. A truly remarkable story. How can you use what Josh is saying there to help improve your role at FIFPro?
It's definitely a very powerful conversation. So again, thank you also for allowing this space. I think it's important to have stories like Josh's that help us continue these conversations. And the fact that his story went so viral at a global level, I'm sure it helped kickstart many, many more of these discussions within a football context, but also outside. He got very positive reaction and positive support from people in and outside of football. And I think that helps, again, us keeping the conversation going. Education, conversation, safe spaces are still necessary for us to really advance when it comes to diversity and inclusion, and when it comes to supporting more and more of inclusive spaces where people can feel safe in just showing up as who they are, as themselves, without having to keep parts of themselves hidden.
Yeah, and what I got from the conversation with Josh is I think a lot of people can see where he's coming from in terms of holding something inside and not being able to be himself. Do you feel like that's your role, to kind of give people the freedom to just be themselves, and then the football takes care of itself?
Yeah, I think even a few steps back make more and more players and individuals within our industry aware that there is that connection between being able to be your full self or being authentic in your day-to-day life, whether that's in or outside of work, is very important to your well-being, to your mental health, to how you show up in your day, and to the energy levels, right, that are required for you to keep something hidden, something that you wish you didn't have to keep hidden.
So I think from that, it's obvious Josh is a real trailblazer when it comes to the LGBTQ plus community. But what I've taken from it personally is he's given a great message in terms of just, he's a trailblazer in being himself and giving that freedom. And you're open to not just that world that Josh is talking about there, but all the different things that take on in the stresses of life and life of football. And you talk about the 133,000 professionals. There's so many conversations and so many things that people are going through. I think it's incredible that you're there for them, and there for them in any way for people to just be free.
And listen, we're just at the start of this. It's work that needs to be always ongoing and continuously improved and spread more around the world. But I think now with stories like Josh, there's more and more awareness that these conversations need to happen, and they need to happen within a men's football context as well. And it's great to be involved in those spaces and help this conversation and this awareness within the industry through the role that we have at FIFPro.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of Footballers Unfiltered, a show brought to you by FIFPro, bringing real conversations among the players on and off the pitch to you. Footballers Unfiltered is recorded at Spotify Studios and is available on all podcast platforms, so make sure you give us a follow. But if you want the up-close and personal experience, you can watch each and every episode on YouTube and Spotify. I'm Joe Hart, and this has been Footballers Unfiltered. See you next time.